The most intriguing dimension of management is leadership. We have this eternal question before us. Is a good leader born or made? Whichever be the proposition that we support, we have to accept that leadership is the most significant aspect of management. It is a leader who refashions the destiny of the organization, and all of us need to know how a good leader does that. It needs to be borne in mind that a quintessential good leader is one who delivers, and therefore success is perhaps the most important indicator of effective leadership. So you would utter the name of Bill Gates and Dhirubhai Ambani in the same breath. This chapter significantly explains the meaning of leadership in the first section and then discusses the behavioral and trait theories. The second section discusses the contingency theories and elaborates upon Fiedler's model, situational leadership, and path goal theory. The last section focuses on current issues in leadership and deals with emotional intelligence, team management, and issue of morality. Now, at the very onset of this lesson, let's ask ourselves about leadership and who is a leader. Leadership can be defined as the ability to influence a group towards the attainment of a predetermined goal. The immediate question that will now come to your mind is a manager a leader? As an answer to this, management experts have clearly distinguished between a manager and a leader. A manager is one who tries to bring discipline and order through formal structures, plans, and processes, and tries to monitor performance against plans. On the other hand, a leader has a vision of the future through which he seeks to give directions to the people, and by sharing this vision, he inspires them and helps them overcome their obstacles. A leader is essentially a visionary, and a manager is a functionary. All managers have some formal authority, which is given to them because of their position, whereas leaders have a sphere of influence, which may or may not be due to formally designated positions. So, formally designated manager may not be a good leader, but a person who has a large informal sphere of influence may prove to be an effective leader. Take the example of a conventional union leader like Datta Samant, who inspired thousands of textile mill workers without any strong formal authority. But a good organization needs both leaders and managers. Leaders inspire, give us the vision of the future, and usher in change. On the other hand, managers enable planned efforts, create organizational structures, and supervise routine operations. Organizational behavior researchers have forever been intrigued about what makes good leaders. Subsequent researchers have led to numerous theories. The study of behavior to arrive at conclusive evidence regarding behavior and its impact on leadership has given rise to behavioral theories. Researchers have attempted to study if there has been anything significantly unique in the manner in which effective leaders behave. There are 4 behavioral theories of leadership which have been propounded. The underlying premise for effective leadership here would be that we can train people to be effective leaders if we know which behavior of a leader is critical to success. Let us understand these theories in brief. Ohio State studies were propounded by researchers at Ohio State University. The studies conclusively suggested that, though a high style had positive outcomes, there were enough exceptions to this rule to indicate that situational factors should be looked into while studying these dimensions. During about the same time, the researchers of University of Michigan studies showed that the leaders showed higher productivity and job satisfaction, whereas production-oriented fared badly on both these outcomes. Robert Blake and Jane Moulton propounded this two-dimensional graphical representation in form of a managerial grid of leadership styles. It helps in conceptualizing the leadership styles rather than in solving the dilemma of effective leadership. Scandinavian studies can be accounted mainly to researchers in Sweden and Finland, who pondered whether there were two dimensions which symbolizes the essence of leadership behavior. These behavioral theories have had moderate success in establishing consistent relationships between leaders' behavior and the group's performance. Yet behavioral theories are one attempt to explain effective leadership. Let us now discuss the trait theories, since behavioral theories have not been able to explain all the aspects of effective leadership. For a long while, there have been attempts to identify some key attributes that are responsible for effective leaders. What are these special attributes that make a good leader? Are there some common traits that run through leaders like Mahatma Gandhi and John F. Kennedy, as well as corporate CEOs like Jack Welch, Lee Iacocca, and Asim Premji? These leaders can be identified as charismatic, enthusiastic, and courageous. Since the 1930s, the search is on to find certain common physical, personality-oriented, social, as well as intellectual traits that set these leaders apart. Obviously, this is more easily said than done. Some 20 studies that conducted research in these traits listed 80 key leadership traits were common to 4 or more studies.
The trait approach has several limitations, the most prominent one being that there are no common traits which can predict leadership in all the given situations. Trait helps anticipate leadership in select situations.
Traits help us in predicting behavior in weak situations, such as where there are no clearly defined behavioral rules, structures, or rewards and punishment. Whereas wherever there are strong behavior norms, strong incentives for showing specific behavior, and definite expectations as to what will be rewarded and what will be punished, then leaders tend to show less of their natural tendencies in such situations. Here it is noteworthy that highly structured and formal organizations with very strong organizational cultures are likely to allow less demonstration of natural traits. Dhirubhai Ambani created wealth by being sensitive to his shareholders, and on the other hand, Infosys founder Narayana Murthy is known for his strong pro-employee tilt. Both these leaders have successfully created business empires from scratch within a very short span of time. Both of these styles, albeit different, have surely clicked. It is not just enough to talk of a few traits or effective behavioral pattern while discussing leadership. Researchers have not been successful at getting consistent results out of research on trait and behavior in terms of effective leadership. This has led to the contingency approach to leadership. The study of situational influence on effective leadership has gained importance. This approach explores the concept that under a given situation X, approach A may be the effective leadership style. Similarly, for situation Z, approach B may be the effective style. And if approach A was used here, then it would not be as effective. So we definitely like to know what these situational conditions are. This is, however, not easy, because how do you isolate these situations? Some theories carefully studied these situational factors and are more recognized than others. Let's look at a few of these models. The first contingency model, named Fiedler's model, was developed by Fred Fiedler. His model succinctly proposes that effective group performance depends on the appropriate match between the leader's style and the extent to which the situation gives control to the leader. This theory believes that stress is the opponent of rationality. So a leader finds it difficult to think rationally and analytically when under stress. Here, there is an attempt to include stress as an important situational variable in the leadership equation. Let us now look at another contingency approach known as the situational leadership theory. Paul Hershey and Kenneth Blanchett advocated the situational leadership theory. The theory has gained immense popularity in recent times. It is incorporated in the leadership training programs of nearly over 400 of the Fortune 500 companies. This model focuses on the followers rather than the leaders and suggests that leaders can compensate for both ability and motivational deficiencies of the followers. And now from here we move on to the path goal theory. It is a much acclaimed theory on leadership. Robert House developed this theory. This theory focuses on the fact that it is the leader's job to help his followers in achieving their goals. The leaders should also provide the essential guidance and support to them to ensure that their goals match the overall objective of the group or organization. The theory takes its name, the path goal, from the conception that effective leaders clear the path of the followers to help them achieve their work goal and make the journey along the path easier by clearing obstacles. Today, in this fast-changing scenario, leaders have to juggle with a whole range of skills to influence people. Needless to say, people skills have gained eminence in this jugglery because working in team has become the order of the day. Standalone leaders have very little success, and obviously they fail to inspire and influence. There are a few questions which are gaining popularity today. One of them is whether leaders need to possess a high emotional quotient along with a high intelligence quotient. Another is the issue of ethics in management and particularly in leadership. And yet another is the issue of specific demands that teams place on leadership. In an age and time where working relationships are virtually changing every day, the leadership function will have to respond to the dynamics of the situation adequately. There is a ranging debate over whether a leader needs to have a greater EQ, that is emotional quotient, or IQ, that is intelligence quotient, and this debate has almost been resolved in the favor of the former. In top echelons, research has suggested that 90% of effectiveness of leadership is due to EQ and not IQ. The factors contributing to emotional intelligence are discussed in the table given here. Tannenbaum and Schmidt have described the range of possible leadership behavior available to a manager. Each type of action is related to the degree of authority used by the boss and to the degree of freedom available to his subordinate in reaching decisions. Let us have a look at the figure given here to know a range of different leadership styles and patterns. The leadership style ranges are varied. There are cases when the manager makes decisions and announces it. It is an extreme form of autocratic leadership whereby decisions are made by the boss who identifies the problem, considers alternative solutions, selects one of them and then reports his decision to his subordinates for implementation. Also, a manager may sell his decisions. It is a slightly improved form of leadership wherein the manager takes the additional step of persuading the subordinates to accept his decisions. In a case where manager presents his idea and invites question, there is a greater involvement of the employees in this pattern. The boss arrives at the decision but provides a full opportunity to his subordinates to get fuller explanation of his thinking and intentions. If the manager presents a tentative decision subject to change, the decision is tentatively taken by the manager but is amenable to change and influence from the employees. Or the manager may present the problem, get the suggestion and then take his own decision. Here, sufficient opportunity is given to the employees to make suggestions that are coolly considered by the manager. If the manager defines the limits and requests the group to make a decision, he lets the group have the right to make the decision. The subordinates are able to take the decisions to the limits defined by the manager. In another simple style, the manager may permit full involvement of the subordinates in the decision-making process. It is often designated as democratic leadership. Leadership style refers to the behavior pattern adopted by a leader to influence the behavior of his subordinates for attaining the organizational goal. As different leadership styles have their own merits and demerits, it is difficult to prefer one leadership style to another. The selection of a leadership style will depend on the consideration of a number of factors. Tannenbaum and Schmidt have pointed out the important factors that affect the choice of a style of leadership. They are the manager's personality, experience and value system. Collectively, they are known as the forces in the manager. The subordinate's readiness for making decisions, knowledge, interest, need for independence, etc. Collectively, they are known as forces in the subordinates. And complexity of the problem, pressure of time, etc. Collectively, they are known as forces in the situation. The different type of leadership styles are autocratic or task management leadership, participative or democratic leadership, laissez-faire or free-rein leadership, and paternalistic leadership. Let us understand each one of them one by one. An autocratic leader is one who centralizes the authority in himself and does not delegate authority to his subordinates. He is dictatorial by nature and has no regard for subordinates. A democratic leader is one who consults and invites his subordinates to participate in the decision-making process. He gives orders only for consulting the group. Sees to it that policies are worked out in group decisions and with acceptance of group. A free-rein leader does not lead, but leaves the group entirely to itself. The leader avoids using power and leaves the decision-making to his subordinates. He does not direct his subordinates, and there is a complete freedom for subordinates. Group of members work themselves and provide their own motivation. Under paternalistic leadership, the leader assumes that his function is fatherly. His attitude is that he treats the relationship between the leader and his group like a family, with he being the head of the family. The leader helps to work, guide, protect, and keep his followers happily working together as members of a family. He provides them with good working condition, fringe benefits, and employee services. It is said that employees under such leadership will work harder out of gratitude.